Broadcasting is kind of a lost art. I mean, it's not a secret. You look at what music on radio means now versus 50, 60 years ago, and it's as different as, you know, real food versus McDonald's. I mean, it is very much, it's broadcasting today is researched to death. You almost never hear live performers. You never get a context and a storyline. And WSM was part of the golden age of broadcasting that laid a template for sort of what I would consider a healthy musical, cultural kind of ecosystem, kind of like a system where artists can come to town and they know where to go look for work and they know who to audition for. And the audition process was really open and welcoming. Not everybody got on the air, you had to be good, but at least there were, you know, musical experts and curators and people who had the passion for it, like Owen Bradley or George Hay, you know, being that filter and demanding that, you know, every minute of every day there was excellence on this station. And they just WSM just set an incredibly high bar from the very day they went on the air in 1925. And they aggressively got on NBC, the first affiliate in the South. And they aggressively played live music well into the 1950s when everybody else had gone to records. And if they thought they had a gap in their programming schedule with radio dramas, they figured out a way to bring radio dramas to the air, and they produced them out of their studio. And they were resourceful, and they were they were the total package as a broadcaster, what broadcasting means, you know, dedicated to having on the air excellence, whether it's entertainment or news or local music or national music piped in from overseas. You know, they would look for the best in the world or the best locally, and they would figure out a way to tell the story of it and present it. And I think that presentation and production has turned into, you know, voice tracking from a remote disc jockey who's not even in your town, and I think WSM now is doing an amazing job of trying to bring that ethic back to the airwaves. Live performance, storytelling on the air, i.e. interviews and in-studio performances, and radio announcers who grasp, you know, who really embody and studied the way it was done when it was figured out. And you're not going to really top the Grant Turners. I mean, you can come up with your own twist and personality, but in terms of just professionalism and impact and talking to that listener out there as if they were the only person listening and making a connection, WSM has represented that for, you know, 80 plus years. Music City is it's a place where art and commerce have had an unusually healthy relationship in the music business. It's a place that, because it was isolated in a sense and made its own rules from the 20s on, was able to have really important breakthroughs, sort of in the same way that a New Orleans, without the pressure of being a New York or LA, had its own culture and let its own culture shine, or Memphis let its own culture shine. Now Nashville's been a little more of a melting pot with people coming to this city from other parts of the country, some in the Deep South, some from, you know, Minnesota or New York or overseas, Australia, wherever, but it's been sort of this beacon, sort of this destination for people who thought, I can come here and soak up the atmosphere, learn from better musicians than I am, because I'm going to meet a bunch of them, be inspired by the quality level of people who can play, write, sing, produce. And I think now it resembles a little more what it did in the 40s, where their independent companies have more power. The music business is not dominated by a few small, powerful companies. Artists who want to, I think there's more ways to figure out how to express yourself and potentially get your art out there and heard. Of course, there's just that many more artists doing it. So the downside of this new revolution is the sheer supply. So sometimes I think there's too many artists seeking their fortune in Music City. But, you know, c'est la vie. You know, everything's competitive. There's too many brain surgeons probably too. You know, Music City has sustained an idea of a kind of musical purity and the hope that you can make a living at it through all these decades. And even though there's been phases where where Music Row maybe kind of lost its way because it got really fat and happy on one particular sound and tried to clone it and clone it and clone it and ran themselves into down artistic dead ends. You look at the whole Music City, you look at all the independent artists, all the genres that are here, and there's really no place like it in the country. I don't think there's a music scene that can top it. When you add up the convenience of getting to the venues. I mean, LA may have more venues, but you could spend 4 hours driving to them. You know, I don't think there's a more kind of healthy, exciting musical kind of ecosystem in the country right now. There's always been a community here that said, we're going to do it different. We're going to zig when everybody else is zagging. We're going to figure out a way to find our own voice. And I think that's happening now. It's been the most exciting place I've ever lived for 13 years now. And while it always seems like certain scenes are always perpetually on the verge, and maybe will never blow up into something, you know, legendary or multi-millions of dollars, there's a lot of amazing artists making a good living here and having a self-directed, self-determined career, and one I think that they'll look back on as really fulfilling.